What do you do when a serial killer escapes from police custody? In Kenya right now, that's not a hypothetical question. A man who allegedly murdered 42 women walked out of a police station in August 2024, and nobody knows where he is. But he's not the only African serial killer whose story will haunt you. Before him came a man in South Africa who killed 38 women and called their families to taunt them. A man in Nigeria who strangled 15 women in hotel rooms. A man in Egypt who threw children off moving trains. And a man in Ghana convicted of 9 strangulation murders. These 5 killers in Africa claimed over 130 lives. Watch till the end to discover why the 5th case might be the worst of them all. Thanks for clicking on this video. We're just a group of friends with regular 9-to-5s, but these stories haunt us enough to spend our nights bringing them to you. We don't ask for much, just your subscription, a like, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because we would like to know which country most of our viewers are watching from. That's what keeps us digging through case files at midnight instead of sleeping. Thank you for believing in what we're doing. Every single one of you makes this possible. Case number 1. Moses Sithole. The women came looking for hope. They walked through the doors of a small office in Johannesburg, where a man named Moses Sithole sat behind a desk, smiling. He told them about jobs, good jobs working with children who needed their help. And in 1994, South Africa, when jobs were scarce and futures uncertain, these women believed him. Moses Sithole was born on November 17, 1964, in Vosloorus, a township near Boksburg. When he was 5 years old, his father died. Not long after that, his mother did something unimaginable. She gathered Moses and his 4 siblings, took them to a police station, and walked away. She told them never to tell anyone she was their mother. The children were sent to an orphanage in KwaZulu-Natal, where Moses later said they faced abuse for 3 years before he ran away as a teenager. He bounced between menial jobs in farms and gold mines around Johannesburg, but his relationships with his employers didn't last long. In his late teens, he was arrested and convicted of rape. He spent 7 years in prison, and when he got out in 1993, something had changed inside him. He blamed that prison sentence on false accusations, and he blamed women for putting him there. By July 1994, Moses had created something called Youth Against Human Abuse. It looked legitimate on the surface, like an organization dedicated to protecting children from harm. But it was a shell, a trap designed to catch vulnerable women. Moses would place ads or approach women directly, offering them employment opportunities. He'd interview them, get to know their backgrounds, collect information about their families. Then he'd tell them to meet him at a specific location for a second interview or to start work. Most of his victims never made it home. Moses would take them to remote fields outside the city. He'd beat them, rape them, and strangle them with their own underwear or other pieces of their clothing. Some victims were found with their hands tied behind their backs. One still wore a blindfold. Many had pieces of clothing draped across their faces, as if Moses couldn't stand them looking at him, even in death. The murders began in Atteridgeville, near Pretoria. Then they continued in Boksburg. Then they moved to Cleveland, a suburb of Johannesburg. The press started calling them the ABC murders because of these 3 locations, though the order may have been different than reported. By 1995, Moses had killed over 30 women, sparking nationwide panic. But Moses wasn't finished with his victims' families. After killing someone, he would often call their relatives. He'd taunt them, remind them their daughter or sister was gone, offer no explanation except cruelty. The families were already grieving, already broken, but Moses wanted to make sure they suffered more. President Nelson Mandela himself visited Boksburg and made a public appeal for anyone with information to come forward. The police were desperate. South Africa's first criminal profiler, Mickey Pistorius, was assigned to the case and determined the murders were connected. In August 1995, police got their first real break. A witness saw Moses with one of his victims shortly before her body was discovered. When investigators started looking into him, they found his previous rape conviction. Moses disappeared immediately, vanishing before they could arrest him. Then in October 1995, Moses did something unexpected. He contacted a South African journalist named Tamsin de Beer and identified himself as the wanted murderer. During their phone conversation, he told her the killings were revenge for his unjust imprisonment. He claimed to have killed 76 women, twice as many as police had linked to him. To prove who he was, he gave de Beer directions to where one of the bodies could be found. Police tracked Moses to Johannesburg and cornered him. When they tried to arrest him, Moses attacked a constable with a hatchet. Officers shot him 3 times before subduing him. At the hospital, doctors discovered he was HIV positive and also had tuberculosis. His trial began in October 1996 and lasted over a year. During his initial incarceration, Moses was recorded in a secretly filmed video admitting to 29 murders. He described his techniques in detail, explained how he selected victims who reminded him of the woman who had accused him of rape years earlier. He said he got his main thrill from watching his victims' eyes bulge out when they died. At trial, Moses denied everything. He claimed police forced him to confess, insisted he was innocent despite overwhelming evidence against him. Tamsin de Beer testified, providing key evidence. Witnesses who had seen him with victims came forward. The illegally recorded video was eventually ruled admissible after lengthy legal arguments. On December 5, 1997, Moses Sithole was convicted of 38 murders, 40 rapes, and 6 robberies. Because South Africa had abolished the death penalty, the judge did the next best thing. Moses received 50 years for each murder, 12 years for each rape, and 5 years for each robbery. The sentences would run consecutively, totaling 2,410 years in prison. Justice David Curlewis told Moses he would have to serve at least 930 years before becoming eligible for parole, meaning he'd need to live to the age of 963 to ever see freedom again. The judge also stated that if capital punishment still existed, Moses would have been sentenced to death. Moses Sithole is currently incarcerated in Mangaung Correctional Center in Bloemfontein, serving what amounts to forever behind bars. His victims, at least 38 women whose names we know, and possibly dozens more, will never get the chance to say their final goodbyes to their loved ones. If this story proves anything, it's that monsters often hide behind ordinary faces and false promises. Don't let the victims' stories to be forgotten. Hit that like button to honor the victims. Subscribe so you never miss when we expose evil people like this. And drop a comment telling us what you think should happen to predators who exploit the vulnerable. Your engagement keeps these stories alive and reminds the world that justice matters. Case number 2. Gracious David West. In July 2019, women started disappearing in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. They'd leave their homes at night and never return. Days later, their bodies would be found in hotel rooms across the city, naked, bound with strips of white cloth torn from pillowcases, strangled to death. The pattern was unmistakable, but for weeks, no one could catch the killer. Gracious David West was born around 1980 in Buguma, a fishing town in Rivers State known for its beaches and mangrove swamps. Those who knew him said he had a difficult childhood. He was an only child born into a polygamous household, but he and his mother lived separately from the rest of the family. David West later claimed his mother was poisoned, and as his father's only son, too much was expected of him. He said he couldn't deliver on those expectations. David West became involved with the Greenlanders, also known as Dibam or De Gabam, a mafia-styled street gang that emerged from the armed militant groups operating in Nigeria's Niger Delta. These groups were notorious for violence, criminal activity, and connections to voodoo practices. Despite his gang connections, David West told authorities he acted alone in the murders. He said he had an irresistible urge to kill. Every night from June until his capture in September, he would drive through Port Harcourt's streets in his vehicle, hunting for women. He targeted women at clubs and drinking spots, women out having fun, women who had no reason to suspect the friendly man approaching them. His method was chillingly consistent. He'd invite a woman to accompany him to a local hotel. They'd eat together, have sex, and go to sleep. Then, in the middle of the night, David West would wake up. He'd turn the television or radio up to maximum volume to cover any sounds. He'd wake his victim and threaten her with a knife. Before killing her, He'd rob her of money, ATM cards, and other valuables. Then he'd tear strips of cloth from the pillowcases and tie up his victim's ankles, arms, and sometimes neck before manually strangling her. The victims were often found naked. The white strips of cloth became his signature, a calling card that told investigators they were dealing with the same killer again and again. David West later confessed he'd been struggling with these urges for months. He even attended the Lord's Chosen Church in Obigbo, where he told a pastor he'd been killing women. The pastor reportedly invited him to a crusade prayer service to heal him, but David West never followed through. Instead, he continued hunting. By September 2019, panic had spread through Port Harcourt. Women were afraid to go out at night. Families were terrified. The police were under intense pressure to find whoever was responsible for these murders. Female activists marched through the streets demanding action, demanding protection, demanding answers. Then on September 19th, 2019, David West made a mistake. In the early morning hours, a woman woke up in a hotel room to find David West tying her up and preparing to suffocate her. She fought back, screamed, survived. Hotel staff had been monitoring their CCTV cameras after police directed all hotels to install them. They caught David West on camera and reported him immediately. Police arrested David West along with another individual from Kaduna State. When questioned, David West confessed to 15 murders. He told police about women he'd killed in Port Harcourt, but also in other states, including Lagos, Owerri, Imo, Abia, and Edo. He described how he'd take money from their bank accounts after killing them, how he'd sell their phones at shops in Port Harcourt's water lines and MTN office areas. His trial began in October 2019, but it was complicated from the start. His lawyer failed to appear on the first scheduled date, frustrating the proceedings. When David West finally appeared in court the next day, he pleaded guilty to 9 murder charges, but not guilty to the attempted murder of the woman who survived. Throughout the trial, David West's behavior was erratic. He was quick-tempered, frequently interrupted the judge, and tried to defend himself despite having legal representation. Then in March 2020, he shocked everyone in court by denying he was the person in newspaper photos or in CCTV footage showing him with his last victim. He claimed he didn't know what the prosecutor was talking about, insisted he hadn't committed any offense. The judge allowed the video images as evidence but rejected newspaper copies. The trial dragged on through the coronavirus pandemic, with multiple adjournments and delays. Finally, on October 9th, 2020, Justice Adolphus Enebeli of the Rivers State High Court delivered his verdict. David West was found guilty of murder and attempted murder. The judge sentenced him to death by hanging. David West's lawyer said he would appeal the judgment if his client allowed it. But for the families of the victims, women whose deaths had been treated as if they didn't matter, women whose relatives never even appeared in court because they had no one to trace them with, the verdict was something like justice. The woman who survived David West's attack vanished after the incident. Authorities said her whereabouts were unknown, despite being told not to leave the state. She never testified at trial, but her survival and her willingness to fight back that night in the hotel room ultimately led to David West's capture. Case number 3, Ramadan Abdel Rahim Mansour. Between 1999 and 2006, children started disappearing along Egypt's railway lines. They were street children mostly, kids nobody was looking for, kids nobody would miss, boys between 10 and 14 years old who lived on the margins of society. And a man named Ramadan Abdel Rahim Mansour was hunting them. Mansour was born around 1980 in Tanta, a town north of Cairo. He left home at an early age and joined a street gang. The gang leaders trained him in survival skills, reportedly cutting him with razors whenever he made a mistake. It was brutal education in a brutal world, and Mansour learned well. According to his later confession, Mansour quickly figured out how to get revenge on anyone who crossed him. He'd rape them, and if they threatened to go to the police afterwards, he'd murder them. This pattern continued for years, with Mansour traveling frequently between Cairo and Alexandria by train. He felt safer in Alexandria because it had fewer police officers patrolling the streets. One of his victims was a 12-year-old boy named Ahmed Nagui. Ahmed had been a member of Mansour's gang. When Mansour tried to sexually assault him, Ahmed did what any victim should do. He reported it to police. Mansour was arrested, but released for lack of evidence. Shortly after that, Mansour found Ahmed and raped and murdered him in retaliation. Mansour and his gang members developed a horrifying method for attacking their victims. They'd lure street children onto the roofs of train carriages. On top of the moving trains, far from help or witnesses, they'd strip the children, rape them, torture them, and then toss them naked onto the trackside. Some children were thrown while still alive. Some were already dead. Some were dumped into the Nile River. Some were buried alive. The Vice Department of Borg El Arab Police Station in Alexandria started keeping a profile on Mansour during this time, but they didn't have enough evidence to arrest him. The murders continued year after year. At least 32 children and youth died at Mansour's hands, though the actual number may have been higher. Most victims were boys, all between 10 and 14 years old, all vulnerable targets. Mansour's crimes came to light in 2006, when 2 of his gang members were arrested. Under questioning, they revealed what had been happening on those train roofs. Police moved quickly to arrest Mansour and his accomplices. When confronted with evidence, Mansour told prosecutors something that would become infamous in Egypt. He claimed he was possessed by a female jinn, a demon from Islamic tradition, who commanded him to commit the crimes. Whether he believed this or was simply trying to avoid responsibility doesn't matter. The courts didn't accept the excuse. Mansour and his accomplice Farag Samir Mahmoud, also known as Hanata, were convicted and sentenced to death by the criminal court in Tanta in 2007. 5 other accomplices were also convicted, but spared execution. They received prison sentences ranging from 3 to 40 years. The name Al-Turbini, meaning express train, became Mansour's nickname because trains were his favorite location for committing his crimes. But what happened next reveals something deeply disturbing about how Egyptian society processed these horrors. Soon after Mansour's arrest, businesses across Egypt started naming products and services after him. Restaurants in Tanta began selling something called the Al-Turbini sandwich, allegedly popular with young locals. Sheep merchants started calling their large-size lambs, priced at over 2,000 Egyptian pounds, Al-Turbini. Tuk-tuk drivers named their vehicles Al-Turbini to attract customers. Some supermarket and communications center owners in Tanta renamed their businesses Al-Turbini, the butcher of Garbia. The Egyptian newspaper Al-Ahram reported on this phenomenon with bewilderment. Author and journalist John R. Bradley wrote that this reaction borders on the incomprehensible, but what it clearly indicates is that something has gone terribly wrong with contemporary Egyptian society. On Thursday, December 16, 2010, Ramadan, Abdel Rahim Mansour and Farag Samir Mahmoud were both executed by hanging at Borg El Arab prison. The children they murdered, at least 32 of them, most of them boys who lived on the streets with no families to mourn them, got some measure of justice. But the commercialization of Mansour's name, the way Egyptian businesses turned his crimes into marketing opportunities, suggests that society still hasn't fully grappled with what happened on those train roofs. Case number 4. Charles Kwanzaa. Between 1993 and 2000 in Ghana, 34 women were found strangled to death. The killings terrified the capital city of Accra and surrounding areas. Women were dying, and for years no one could identify who was responsible. Then in February 2008, police arrested a mechanic named Charles Kwabena Ibo Kwanzaa, and the truth started coming out. Charles Kwanzaa was born in 1964 and later became known as Papa and as the Accra Strangler. But long before those nicknames, Kwanzaa had a criminal history that should have raised red flags. Police and prison records reveal he was jailed at the James Fort prisons in 1986 for rape. After completing that sentence, he committed another rape and was jailed for 3 years at the Nsawam prisons in 1987. Then in 1996, Kwanzaa was imprisoned again, this time for robbery at the Nsawam medium prisons near Accra. After his release that same year, he relocated to Accra and settled in the Adenta neighborhood. The strangulation deaths of women began appearing in 1993. The victims were found in various locations around Accra and beyond. Police initially struggled to determine whether one person was responsible or if multiple killers were operating. The methods varied enough that investigators couldn't be certain. But the strangling, that was consistent. In January 1996, a woman named Akua Serwa was found strangled near Kumasi Sports Stadium in Kumasi. Police added her death to the growing list of unsolved murders. Years passed with no arrests, no leads, no answers for the families of the dead. Then, in February 2000, Kwanzaa was arrested for murdering his girlfriend, Joyce Boateng. While in custody, police connected him to Akua Serwa's murder from 1996. Under pressure, Kwanzaa confessed to strangling 8 women in Accra. Police had actually been watching Kwanzaa before the arrest. He'd been under surveillance as a suspect in the killings, but they hadn't moved on him until they had enough evidence. His previous convictions for rape and robbery painted a picture of a violent man who'd been escalating for years. Kwanzaa's trial for the serial killings began on Thursday, July 11th, 2002 at the High Court Criminal Sessions in Accra. Prosecutors presented evidence connecting him to the deaths of 9 women, all strangled. The trial revealed that Kwanzaa worked as a mechanic and lived a seemingly normal life in Adenta, while secretly killing women. The jury convicted Kwanzaa of 9 counts of strangulation murder. The judge sentenced him to be hanged until death. But the story didn't end there. In 2003, Kwanzaa spoke to the press from prison. He denied killing any of the 9 women he'd been convicted of murdering. He also denied involvement in the additional 23 women. Police suspected him of killing. He issued a statement claiming he was tortured while in police custody, that his confession had been forced, that he was innocent. These claims are common from convicted killers, but in Kwanzaa's case, they raised questions. Ghana's justice system has faced criticism over the years for police brutality and forced confessions. Whether Kwanzaa's claims were true or simply the lies of a guilty man trying to escape responsibility remains disputed. What isn't disputed is that 9 families lost daughters, sisters, mothers. 9 women had their lives taken by strangulation, and likely many more victims exist whose deaths were never conclusively linked to Kwanzaa. As of the last available records, Kwanzaa remains on death row in Ghana. The country has a moratorium on executions, meaning he likely won't be hanged, but will instead spend the rest of his life in prison. He's had decades to think about what he did, decades to live, while his victims remain dead. He had attracted 3 convictions for violent crimes before he ever faced charges for serial murder. The system knew Charles Kwanzaa was dangerous, but women kept dying anyway. That's not just Kwanzaa's failure, that's institutional failure. If you think the system needs to do better, if you think violent offenders should face real consequences before they become serial killers, make your voice heard. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment demanding better from the institutions meant to protect us. Your engagement pushes this story to people who need to see it. Case number 5. Collins Jumaisi Kalusha. On a Friday in July 2024, residents of Kware in Nairobi's Mukuru Kwa Njenga neighborhood made a horrifying discovery. Bodies were floating in an abandoned quarry filled with water and used as a dump site. The bodies were wrapped in plastic bags. They'd been dismembered, and they kept finding more. By the time police finished their initial search, they'd recovered 10 bodies and multiple body parts. All of the victims were women between 18 and 30 years old. The discovery sparked panic across Nairobi. Who was killing these women? And how long had this been going on, just 100 meters from a police station? 3 days later, on Monday, the July 15th, 2024, police arrested a 33-year-old man named Collins Jumaisi Kalusha. They found him at 3 in the morning outside a club in Soweto, east of Nairobi, where he'd been watching the Euro 2024 soccer final. Under interrogation, Kalusha confessed to murdering 42 women. He told police he'd lured them, killed them, and disposed of their bodies at the dump site. He said the murders started in 2022 and continued until July 11th, 2024, just 4 days before his arrest. He claimed his first victim was his wife, Imelda Judith Kalenya. Mohammed Amin, the head of Kenya's Directorate of Criminal Investigations, called Kalusha a psychopathic serial killer with no respect for human life or dignity. Police said they tracked Kalusha down through forensic analysis of a mobile phone belonging to one of the victims, Josephine Mulongo Owino. Mobile money transactions conducted on the day she disappeared pointed directly to Kalusha. Josephine's sister said she disappeared on June 26th from Nairobi's sprawling Mukuru slums. Her dismembered body was among those found in the quarry. Police revealed that Kalusha lived just a short walk from the dump site where the bodies were found. This raised immediate questions about how he'd evaded detection for 2 years while operating so close to a police station. Kalusha was born on February 3, 1991, in Vihiga County, to Margaret Rose Jumaisi. After his father died in 1995, he moved with his mother and 3 siblings to Migori County. People who knew him said he worked as a boda, a motorcycle taxi driver. Nobody suspected what he was allegedly doing when he wasn't working. Police also arrested 2 other men, Amos Momanyi and Moses Ogembo, after they were found with mobile phones allegedly belonging to some of the deceased women. On Friday, August 16, 2024, Kalusha appeared in court. The magistrate ordered him held for 30 more days while police completed their investigation. That's when Kalusha's lawyer, John Maina Ndegwa, made a bombshell claim. He told the court that Kalusha had been tortured into confessing. Ndegwa said his client was in dire need of urgent medical attention, that he'd been subjected to molestation and torture, and that the confession was laughable. Prosecutors denied these allegations, but the claims raised questions in a country where police have long faced accusations of human rights abuses. Some Kenyans wondered if the bodies found in the quarry might actually be remains of demonstrators who disappeared in June during protests against a tax increase. Police had violently cracked down on those protests, shooting at demonstrators who'd forced their way into parliament. Then on Tuesday, August 20th, 2024, something shocking happened. Collins Jumaisi Kalusha escaped from police custody. He broke out of Jigiri police station along with 12 undocumented Eritrean migrants who'd been detained for illegal immigration. They cut through wire mesh in the Basking Bay, an area where detainees could access fresh air, at approximately 3 in the morning. Then they climbed the perimeter wall. Their escape wasn't discovered until officers made a routine visit to the cells at 5 in the morning to serve breakfast. When they opened the cell door, 13 prisoners were gone. Gilbert Masengeli, the acting police inspector general, said preliminary investigations indicated the escape was aided by insiders. 8 officers who were on duty at the time were suspended. 5 of them later appeared in court, suspected of helping Kalusha escape. The police station that Kalusha escaped from is located in Jigiri, an upmarket district of Nairobi that's home to the regional headquarters of the United Nations and numerous embassies. Security should have been tight. The fact that 13 prisoners could cut through wire mesh and scale walls without anyone noticing raised serious questions about corruption and competence within the Kenyan police force. As of now, Collins Jumaisi Kalusha remains at large. Police launched a massive manhunt, but haven't recaptured him. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations offered a reward of 1 million Kenyan shillings for information leading to his arrest. In October 2025, confusion erupted when a man was arrested claiming to be Kalusha. He was apprehended after an altercation with fellow passengers in a matatu traveling to western Kenya. The driver took him to Naivasha police station, where the man identified himself as Collins Jumaisi Kalusha. But the DCI quickly clarified that the information about Kalusha's rearrest was false. He remains at large. 42 women, dead, and somewhere out there, Collins Jumaisi Kalusha is free. Possibly still dangerous, possibly still killing. He confessed to 42 murders and escaped with help from police officers. That's not just a failure of security. That's corruption enabling evil. If that doesn't make you furious, you should get checked. This is why these stories matter. Share this video to make sure it reaches people who need to know what's happening in Kenya. Subscribe so you don't miss updates if Kalusha is ever recaptured. And comment below demanding accountability from institutions that let monsters escape back into the society. Your voice matters. Use it.
I want to thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you're going to love what's coming next. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for instant updates on our latest videos. See you in the next one.